No one, just me.
One second. Terrence, I love where you are, baby. Look at him. He's at the brewery. I love him.
Okay. So the Mishnah. Yeah, on the bottom of Tzadik Tesam beis. So continuing on all the things and when people make mistakes. When so till now we're talking about when the almana and the shliach make a mistake. In the shlichus, now we're talking about bezdin. So shuma dayanim. So when dayanim have to evaluate, you have to evaluate property, you have to evaluate anything. So let's say they make a mistake. Shapischu shtus, ayhasifu shtus. They add on a sixth, or they were cheap by a sixth. Meaning, so whoever it is that they're evaluating for, they got ripped off. So michran batal, meaning bezdin sells somebody's land for whatever reason he sells the land. So the mechira is batal. If they mess up to a sixth, which is how much? What is that? 15%, give or take, right? If they mess up by around 15%, then then bezdin, then the mechira is gone. Rav Shimon Gamliel and Michron Kayim know the mechira works because imkain ma koyach bezdin yafin. This is an important line. It's an interesting thing. Rav Shimon Gamliel says even if they messed up more than a sixth, if you don't trust bezdin, then what is bezdin worth? Right? That's essentially what he's saying.
But we know that they made a mistake.
Right. That's
and we're still not trusting them. And so we're not trusting them because we don't like them. It's because they made a mistake.
They made a mistake, and we have to still go with bezdin's mistake. Right? We're going to see on a beis. So what? So it's an unlimited mistake. Again, we're not talking about a crooked bezdin, right? We're talking about a bezdin who just happened to have made a mistake, right? But we have to, in other words, if you don't go with bezdin, even when they make a mistake, it's going to limit the authority that bezdin has. Now, how it would work with an appeals court and all those things, I don't know, but that's essentially what's gonna be, right? Fine. So that's a machlokes. Aval imasu igeres bikaris b'nei. But let's say they make a letter of bikaris, which Rashi just says means achraza, meaning bezdin announced. Meaning this is talking about where bezdin quietly went and took and sold fields. But if they made an announcement, then afilu machru shava mana b'masayim, even if they were off by 50%, right? Meaning even if they sold a field that was worth 100 and they sold it for 200, I shava masayim b'mana, or they sold a field that was worth 200 for 100, michron kayim, the mechira still works. Why? Because since they put it up in a public bidding, I'm assuming that's what it is, or a public auction, so it must be that the only reason why they were able to get that money is that either to get a lot of extra money or to get not enough money was because they didn't have a choice. They didn't have a choice. They're not stupid, bezdin. They put it out there. Meaning, if bezdin does it in a private sale, okay, so bezdin could have messed up. But if they did it in a public sale, so then they must not have had a choice. Fine. So Gemara asks, shliach keman. So who's a shliach like? So far we have that an almana cannot make any mistakes, and we have that bezdin can make at the minimum up to a sixth, and according to Rav Shimon Gamliel, even more than that. So where's the shliach fall? So shliach keman. I'll talk about Aleph now. Rav Amar Rav Nachman shliach kedayanan shliach is din of dayanan. Rav Shmuel Amar Rav Nachman kalmana. He has the din of like kalmana. Meaning, so Rav says the shliach's like a dayan, and he could either get up to a sixth mistaken, or we're going to see it's a half according to Shimon Gamliel. And Shmuel Avisa says like an amana, which means that there's no room for any mistakes. Rav Amar Rav Nachman shliach kedayan, and the shliach's like a dayan matayan, and lavli did too. A dayan is not selling the land for himself. He's got nothing. He's got no skin in the game, right? Af shliach nami lavli did. Shliach also is not for him. Lafuke amana diladida. That comes to exclude an amana. She's doing it for her own reasons, for selfishness. So mamela, we can't allow her to sell fields that belong to the estate.
What?
Yeah.
Keep what?
Mute. Gotta mute.
You gotta mute him,
Toby Langer.
Yeah. Rav Shmuel Bar Bisna. Okay, so again, so Rava says that the shliach is like a dayan because he's doing it on behalf of somebody else. Rav Shmuel Rav Bisna Rav Nachman Kalmon is like an amana. Ma'amana yichida, just like an amana is she's a yichida. She's by herself. Av shliach yachid, and a shliach is also doing the sales by himself. Lafuke bezdin the rabbim nenu. Bezdin is a rabbim, so therefore they have a different din. Right? Fine. So v'hilchasa, what's the halacha? Shliach kalmana. The shliach is like an amana, and any amount of mistake that a shliach does will cause the whole deal to be rescinded. Okay, so Gemara asks, so why is this different than the Mishnah we learned, and we had this yesterday's daf? Somebody tells the shliach, go give truma. Again, just to review, truma can be either given in 1/40th, 1/50th, or 1/60th. The average is a 50th. A cheap guy gives a 60th, and a more generous guy gives a 40th. Right, so I'm a l'shluchat say v'trying. If somebody says to a shliach, go give truma for me, and he doesn't know how much the shliach has no idea how much the owner wants him to take off of truma. So terumah kedas balabayis. So he gives the truma to the amount that the balabayis, what he estimates the balabayis would want. And let's say he doesn't know the das of his balabayis. Then he goes with the average, which would be 1/50th, 2%. Which is 1/50th, which is 2%. Piches asara, let's say he misjudged his boss and he lowered it by 10. Or he added on the 10. So truma is a truma, the truma is a truma. So you see that the shliach messed up and it still works, right? The truma is still a truma. Also, you see a shliach does have some leeway to make a mistake. Since there are some who give truma with an ayin ra, meaning they're cheap, and there are those that give truma with a nice eye, right? So meaning that are generous eye. So so the shliach can tell the boss, I evaluated you either that you were a cheap guy or that you were a generous guy. And I messed up, but it was my evaluation of you. But here, if the agent, right, if the shliach just sells for no good reason, and he messes up for no good reason, then that's a mistake. And if it's a mistake, the sale should not go through, right? So and the boss can say, I didn't make you a shliach to make a mistake for me. So therefore it for truma, a shliach making a mistake works, and if not. If for anything else it does not work. Fine. So again, going back into the Mishnah, where the Mishnah says that Rav Shimon Gamliel says that you can make a mistake more than a sixth, and Tanakama says only up until a sixth. So we're saying the halacha is like the Chacham. The less leilu Rav Nachman. Again, Rav Nachman is the one. It's Rav Huna Bar Chinna in the name of Rav Nachman. So the less leilu Rav Nachman Makoyach Bezdin Yafa. Again, Rav Shimon Gamliel. The reason why Rav Shimon Gamliel had said that the Bezdin can make a mistake more than a sixth, because he says otherwise, what kind of koyach does Bezdin have? Right? So if you pasken like the Chacham, does that mean that you hold that Bezdin doesn't have koyach, that you don't want Bezdin to have a koyach? If you have Yisaimim, right, orphans that want to split up their father's property, Bezdin Mamidin and Apotropos, since they're Yisaimim, so they're too young to deal with it. So Bezdin sets up an Apotropos, like a shliach to take care of it. And he chooses a nice portion for each yasam, meaning the way Rashi really says it is that each kid gets its own apotropos. Right? It's not one apotropos that splits it for everybody. Each kid gets their own apotropos, and each one represents their kid. So each one chooses each one tries to choose a good portion for their kid. Higdilu, but when the kids grow up, but they can make a macha and say, my guy misrepresented me. Right? So that's what Rav Nachman did. That's what Rav Nachman said in the name of Shmuel. But Rav Nachman did Amar, Higdilu ein if they got older, they're not allowed to make a macha. Why? Because if you're going to let these Yisaimim step all over the people that were representing them, then it's to be a disaster. They're not going to have any power to them whatsoever. right? So therefore, you see, Reb Nachman does hold of the concept that you have to give some leeway to Beis Din, right? And we just said that Reb Nachman paskens like the Chachamim that you don't give leeway to Beis Din. So my answer is like kasha had the toe, had the loy toe. One is talking about where they made a mistake, right? Meaning if they made a mistake of more than a sixth, then Reb Nachman holds that we don't listen to them. We rescind it. And where they didn't make a mistake more than a sixth, then he says, then we go with Beis Din. Either loy toe, but so well, if they didn't make a mistake, so how could the Yasim have a macha? Meaning we're saying the Yasim can make a macha if they're unhappy. Fine. But who are they making macha against if it was done legitimately? So what our answer is a one-word answer, baruchas. They have complaints not against the financial splitting, but their complaints could be is that, let's say one Yasim said, I want a field in the northern part of the property, and the other one says, I want the field of the south part of the property, because each one had their own reasons why they would want it in that area. So granted, the Beis Din didn't mess up with the finances, but they messed up in the placement. So therefore, that they could complain about. Fine. So ki asa Rav Dimi, Amar Maisa va'asa Rebbi k'divrei Chachamim. There was a Maisa that Rebbi did like the Chachamim. Right? Meaning he pasken like the Chachamim, and Beis Din made a mistake bigger than a sixth, and he said no good. Right? Amar lefana parta b'noisher b'lozav ben parta ben b'noisher b'parta agadol. Right? So he said im kain ma koyach Beis Din yofa. He said to Rebbi, if you're gonna make this sale, cancel out the sale, then what kind of koyach is Beis Din yofa, which is Rav Shimon Gamliel? So again, Rebbi pasken like the Chachamim, and then Raparta Hagadol said, well, now you're taking away Beis Din's power. Rebbi changed his ma'isa, meaning Rebbi went and changed his psak, which is very interesting because we're talking about whether to change a psak, and Rebbi here went and changed his psak. A different version of this. Rav Dimi Masni Hachi. Rav Dimi said it the way it went down was this way. Rav Dimi Masni Hachi. Rav Dimi learned it that way, the way we just said. Rav Safra Masni Hachi. Rav Safra had a different version of the story. Rebbi Lasso is Kedivrei Chachamim. It was a Maisa that Rebbi wanted to do like the Kedivrei Chachamim. Meaning he wanted to do it. In the first version, he actually pasken like Rav Shimon Gamliel. In this version, like the Chachamim. In this version, he wanted to pasken like the Chachamim. And then they said to him, if you're going to pasken like the Chachamim, cancel out this deal, then what power does Beis Din have? So loy also Rebbi is a Maisa. Because of that, Rebbi never pasken. Right? So again, in the first version of the story, Rebbi changed his psak. In the second version of the story, Rebbi was going to pasken one way and he didn't. Okay, so what's the difference in the story? So the Gemara says, let's say this is the Machlokes. Somebody makes a mistake in a Dvar Mishnah. We had this a couple of times. Then he has to change. He has to go back. Meaning, let's say Dayan paskins incorrectly. So now, really, the Mishnah says that you have to not hear the Mishnah, but the Mishnah says that you have to. He does not change his psak. He just has to pay out of his own pocket. Meaning, if the Dayan tells the guy, you owe him $100, and then it comes out that the guy paskened wrong, so the psak stays the same. He has to pay $100 to the guy who he messed over. Right? That's one shita. And Marsa the one says no. One second. I think I skipped a step. Right. So that's if I'm sorry. So the basic is that if he messed up in the psak stays the same. He has to pay it back. Right. But that's only when it's where he just figured he didn't do a proper evaluation. But let's say he made a mistake and he forgot a Mishnah, right? So then the psak is gone. That's the way it is. The psak is no good. He just messed up. So that's it. So Marsa Dvar Mishnah Chayzer. If somebody makes a mistake in the Dvar Mishnah, he's allowed. He has to change his mind. So that's what Rebbi did according to the first version of the story. Marsa and the other one says no. He does not. You cannot take back the psak. And therefore, the story must have happened that Rebbi didn't yet pasken that. So that's what we're thinking is the difference between the two versions of the story. So Gemara says, "Like the kuli alma tabit bar mishnah chayzer." Everybody holds that if you made a mistake, then you have to change your mind. And Rebbi could have changed his mind. So Mar said, "No, don't think so much into it. Just there were two different versions of how the story went." Fine. So Amar of Yosef. Yosef says, "Amalta the zvina. If you have an almana who is selling things, achrayis ayasmi." So it's a total new subject here. So again, an almana, we're talking about an almana who needs to get the money for her ksuba, for her food. So what is she doing? She's selling the land that belonged to her husband, which really means it's the estate of the assignment. So let's say she sells the land, and then somebody comes and says, "Hey, the land that this almana just sold is really indebted to me. I have a lien on it." The lien holder comes and says, "It's really going to me." So what's the din? So the achrayus goes on the Yisayimim, and the Yisayimim are going to have to, since ultimately it's the Yisayimim's fields that she's selling, so they're responsible. So achrayus is on the Yisayimim. Bezdin is of and let's say Bezdin is the one that sells the fields in order to pay for the almana's things, or for any time the Bezdin has to sell things. Achrayus ayasmi. So the achrayus is also on the Yisayimim, meaning the Yisayimim are going to have to give up their land for this, because ultimately this land traces itself back to the assignment. So Mark says, Pshita, it's Pashit. Well, of course it goes back to the assignment are responsible. So it says, Almana lo yitzruklei. So we don't have to teach anything about the Almana. Ki yitzruklei beidina, but we need to teach it about a bezdin. Because Mao the same, Amud beis now, Mao the same, called the Zavim beidina. Anybody who buys something from bezdin, Adaitu lamefek lekolo, who the Zavim, he's the reason why he is buying it for Bezdin, meaning when Bezdin forecloses on something and Bezdin makes an announcement that they're selling whatever it is because it's in foreclosure. So the guy buying it thinks, well, if Bezdin is announcing it, then everybody's going to know that they're selling this field. And if this field really belonged to somebody as a lien, he would go to Bezdin and say, "Hey, why are you selling this field if I have a lien on it? Don't sell this field," right? So Elamai, the Bezdin put it out there and nobody complained. So you would think that there's no achrayus on the assignment. No, that for whatever reason, if a guy didn't step forward, it's still the achrayus is on the assignment. Right? Okay, fine. Let's tell you, I just shut the video. Okay, all right. Okay, weiter. Rav Shimon Gamliel says that you get even more, making a mistake of more than a sixth, Bezdin is still valid. Yes, I thought if it wasn't a Friday, we could hack this whole thing. How can you say, right? How can you say that Bezdin, well, we just want Bezdin to have power, therefore they can make mistakes on people? Right? There's been a lot of, in history, there's been a lot of, Gershon's on for that now. Right? In the history, it's been a lot of, let's say Machlokes that came from this, where rabbis said, no, we pasken this way, and even though you think we're wrong, and we still have to pasken, right? Parrots just showed up here for Shabbos, so I'll make a l'chaim, the covered parrots on a Friday afternoon. L'chaim.
But Yaakov, there's nothing more geschmack than fresh beer like that.
I don't know. It's yellow. I don't know. It's yellow beer. Weird looking beer. But all right, I trust my brother.
Not orange juice?
It's not orange juice. Nope. Anyways, okay. Right. So Rav Shimon Gamliel says they can make a mistake. They can make a mistake even more than a six. Bad comma. Okay, so till how much to mistake? How much a mistake in Bezdin? There has to be a leeway, which I don't understand the question. Because if you say that Bezdin's power is Bezdin's power, so then there should be no leeway. I mean, there should be an unlimited amount of leeway, right? What are you saying? You draw the line by a sixth or by a half. Okay, so you draw the line here, I draw the line there. Either you say Bezdin is legit or not. So I'm not clear in what the Gemara's question is. Okay, Ba'ad Kama, Amar Rav Huna Bar Yehuda, I'm sorry. Amar Rav Huna Bar Yehuda, Amar Rav Sheshes, Ad Palvin, half. Bezdin can make a mistake up to 50%. Okay, so Tani Nami, Hachi Amar Shim Gamliel, Bezdin Shemachlu Shava Masayim B'mana. Let's say Bezdin sells a field that was worth 200, they sell it for 100. Or Shava Mana B'masayim, or something that's worth 100 for 200. Mechron Kayim, the Mechira is Kayim. Fine. So Amar now, so that's it. So up to a half. Let's say Bezdin did not announce it, right? Yeah, you could hear these shenanigans going on. Bezdin has to put something out for sale, and a guy comes to him and says, "Hey, listen, I want the property. Can you not put it out in the public and just sell it to me under the table?" Right? So let's say Bezdin did that. Hachraza means that they have to announce it, and you'll put an ad in the paper, tell people. So let's say Bezdin did that.
Put it on their WhatsApp status.
Oh, yeah, what? Yeah, there you go. Very good. Or Twitter or whatever social media, which means they're apostle Bezdin anyway. So then maybe okay. But, so anyway, so the Gemara is saying that that's as if they made a mistake in a Dvar Mishnah, like we said on Amud Aleph. And when they make a mistake on a Dvar Mishnah, it's automatically negated. Right? So Gemara says, Nasu, we make it as if Vadai told. That's a for sure a mistake. How can Bezdin not put it up for auction? It's not Shuma Yisayim. The valuation for Yisayim is Shloshim Yom, meaning you have to put it up in the market for 30 days for Yisayim. The Shuma Hektish, Shishim Yom. And the valuation for Hektish is 60 days. And every morning and night, they have to make, Bezdin has to send around, the guy in Eretz Yisrael with the microphones. Right? That they're going to be an auction for this and this type of field. So you see, Bezdin has to do it. So if they didn't, it's not as if they made a mistake, they made a mistake. So when I answered, I would have thought that that's when the shliach is selling it. Right? That's when you have to do this. But Bezdin doesn't have to go through such a complicated procedure. Kamash Malon, that Bezdin has to do the same thing. So our Mishnah, right? Evaluations that Dayanim make, and they overshoot by a 6 or they undershoot by a 6. Machar and batal. The mechir is batal. Hashava b'shava, but it's mashma that let's say it would have been the exact amount, the equal amount. Mechar and kayim, the mechir and kayim. And so what's the chiddush? My love, the loy achras. It must be the chiddushes, and that's talking about as long as they nailed the price properly, even if they didn't announce it, it's not a problem. So we say loy, no, the achras. It's somewhere where they did announce it, right? So therefore, the mistake is up to a 6th or more than a 6th. So when it says somebody saved the achras, if the save is talking about where Bezdin called it out, habi reisha but the loy achras must be the reisha somewhere where they didn't call it out. The Katani safe, the safe is also with Geras Bikaris, right? The safe our Mishnah says if they make a letter of Bikaris, what it means from like Bikar Chaylim, from visiting. Meaning if Bezdin put it out there that it's on the auction block or whatever it is, even if they sold a field that was worth 100 for 200, a shav masayim b'mano or 200 for 100, the mechir is kaim. So you see, the safe is talking about where Bezdin announced it. Must be the Reish is talking about where they didn't announce it. So when it says it's really the Mishnah is talking about where the Bezdin didn't announce it. Okay, so how did they mess up? One is talking about when Bezdin was selling things that they could announce, and one is talking about with not could, but they have to announce, and the other one is talking about where things that they didn't have to announce. Okay, what does Bezdin not have to announce? These are the things that Bezdin sells without publicizing it. Slaves and anything that's tangible, things that move, like watches, jewelry, that type of thing, and shtaris. Avadim, why? Avadim, time and why is it that they don't announce that they're selling slaves? Why? Because Shema Yishmu v'Yivruchu, because the slave hears that he's on the auction block. He says, oh no, I don't want a new boss, and he runs away. Metalton and shtaris, Shema Yiganvu. Metalton and shtaris, maybe people are going to steal it. Right? If they hear that it's being sold, then they might come and steal it. So therefore, those things Bezdin doesn't announce. That's one teretz. So again, one part of the Mishnah is talking about where there's something that they do announce, and one is talking where they don't announce. Biba is saying, or we could say a different teretz. One is talking about a time when they do announce, and one is talking about a time that they don't announce. What does that mean? The Amri Nardoi, because in Nardoi they say lekarga for taxes, the mazaini for food, and ukfura and for funeral. The funeral for levayas mazvanina below achraza, you sell it without achraza. Right? Why? Because all those three, it's very important that they get paid right away. You can't wait around a month, right? We said before that for Yosemite they wait a month. and until they put it on the auction block. So they said we can't do that. Meaning, when you put it up for sale for a month, you have a better chance of getting a higher price. But for these things, they need the money right away, either for taxes so that the guy doesn't get thrown into jail, food because you don't want the people to die, and burial because they need to be buried. So there you sell, Bezdin will sell right away. What is talking about in a place that they do make announcements, and what is somewhere where they don't make announcements? In Nardoi, they never made announcements. Why did they never make announcements? So some of you know, they thought in Nardoi they didn't have to, because in Nardoi they were smart businessmen and everybody knew exactly how much all the properties were worth. So you didn't have to put it up for sale for 30 days. Some of the years about See, in Nardoi, they were very sensitive. If you would put up for sale that you're putting Yisayimim or Almona's land in order to feed them, nobody's going to bid on it because everybody's going to say, what are you trying to do? Take advantage of a widow or orphans? So in Nardar, nobody would bid, right? Which is very nice. What? Yeah. Well, yeah, which is very nice, right? It's funny. I was thinking about that this morning. Which is very nice, but it's well-meaning. They don't want to take. The people from Nardar did not want to take advantage of Yisrael and Almanas, but on the other hand, by them not bidding it, they're not getting them any sort of money. So basically what they have to do is they have to hide it, and they have to sell these properties even from right away. They had to sell it right away. They couldn't wait the 30 days, which might have cost the Yisrael and Almanas, because they probably would have fetched more money. Basically, I don't know if this is the lesson you can learn from this or not, but if the Torah tells you to do something, you can't have misplaced Rahmanas. Sometimes by having Rahmanas, right, you're actually messing them up, right? Because again, the people are having Rahmanas on the Yisayimim, and the Almanas say, oh, we're never going to bid on this property. Great. So now what's Bezdin have to do? They can't put it up for auction, right? They have to sell it to the first buyer under the table. You're not going to fetch the same price. So your sensitivity is very nice, but what are you going to do? Okay, right? I mean, that's a chinuch thing, since we didn't learn Musar today. Right? Since we didn't learn Musar today, it has to be Musar, right? Sometimes you have to be strict with children, etc., even though it looks like you're not having Rahmanas, right? But if you don't do that, then you might end up with more damage. Yeah, so that's essentially what the Gemara is saying over here. Fine. Amar Rav Yehuda, is that what we're up to? Yeah. Amar Rav Yehuda, Mashmum Matalton and Shel Yisayimim. So things that move for Yisayimim, meaning watch it, jewelry, these type of things. Shaman Oisay, Meichon Oisay L'Alta. You evaluate them and you sell them right away. Rav Chisda, because you don't want them to deteriorate. Rav Chisda Amar Rabbi Mi Meichron Oisan the Shvakim. No, you sell them in the shuk, right? Because if you sell it in the shuk, you have more bidders, right? If you sell it right away, you won't have depreciation, but you might not get a good price. And here, but if you do it in the shuk, then you probably will get a better price. But like pligin, there's no machlokes. Hadam mekarav shoka, hadam merachik shoka. One is talking about where the day of the shuk is coming soon, meaning back then they have traveling shuks, right? It comes up a lot in Hilchos Cholamoyed, right? If a traveling shuk happens to come on Cholamoyed, you're allowed to go shopping there because you're not going to have that opportunity any other time, right? So too, if they knew that the shuk was coming soon, so then wait to sell the assignment things. But if you don't know when the shuk is coming, or it's coming in a long time from now, then you sell it right away. Rav Kahana have a other shikra. Oh, Mama Shinyan the Diyama. Right? Rav Kahana had beer. Here, this is beer. Right? Rav Kahana had beer in his hand of Ramashashi Bar Chilkoi Yasma, the Yisayimim of Ramashashi Bar Chilkoi. Right? Shahaya, Shaya ad Rigla. He waited Mamash till Yom Tov. It's Mamash in there. He waited till Yom Tov to sell it because he figured the beer will get more money by Yom Tov. Even though it might get destroyed, might get ruined, might get rotten. I don't know if that's the right word. Spoiled, right? So Maisi Zuzah Harifa. I'd rather have Charifa means quick. I'd rather have quick cash. I'm sorry. I'd rather have quick cash by Yom Tif than get much less for it now. So that's what he did for the assignment. For the Yasam. Ravina have beer the Chamra de Ravina Zute Yasma. Ravina had beer of Ravina Zute Yasma, Bar Achse Hava, and it was his nephew, right? The son of his sister. The day Nami Chamra Hava. And he also had wine. I'm sorry, I said beer. This is wine, right? And Kamasikle the Sichra, and he was bringing it to Sichra to sell. Also, the Kamid Rashi came to ask Rashi, Amarle Ma'olem Tuye Bahadon. Should I take the Yasim's wine with us also? Meaning, if we drag the Yasim's wine, what happens if something goes wrong on the trip and the wine gets ruined? So we're going to be responsible for it. So maybe it's an irresponsible thing to do. Amarle Zil, go. You don't have to deal with the Yasim's money any more than you have to deal with yours. You don't have to treat his anything different. There's something called widows and orphans funds in the stock markets, right? That when you're taking care, when you're investing money on behalf of widows and orphans, you have to do very, very conservative. You have to do it very conservative. So that's what this Gemara is saying. You have to try and you got to make sure that the assignment they keep their stuff to a very a very conservative thing because you don't want them to lose. So you have to sometimes figure out, is it better to sell it right away? In which case you're gonna have you have guaranteed to have some money, but if you wait, the price may go down. Or no, you try and wait for a time that you could be sold for a lot more money. But there's risks either way. So these are questions that have to be asked. Do we have any time to go a little weiter, or we don't?
Candlelight is in 3 minutes.
Candlelight is in 5 minutes over here.
All right, okay, we'll stop here. Now we're gonna have to make it up because the
Kaplan is 5 and Teleliner is 3.
the next couple of blocks.
All right, you're the man.
There you go. All right. Anyways, we'll stop over here. So 8 o'clock tomorrow night. Bez Hashem.
It's a hiding.
L'chaim.
L'chaim.
What are you doing Sunday at the end?
Yeah.
Give Soil a pinch where he knows it. It's from me.
What is it?
Pinch where he knows it's from him.
Where do we get up to?
As long as he doesn't know it's from your father.
There
right?
you go. Come on. Good job, Miss.
Yeah, all right. Good job.
Where did we get up to? I'm still catching up.
Here, we're lighting here. Wherever they like.
We got up to the Mishnah, Gershon.
Where we get up to the Mishnah.
Oh, okay, fine. Shkoya.
Yeah.
Shabbos.
All right, good Shabbos.
Why do people not say Good Moed on Shabbos Chol Moed?
What?
Why do people not say Good Moed on Shabbos Chol Moed?
I don't know. Maybe that has to do with you sticking Cholamayah to the brachas of Torah.
Oh. In the Maisa, according to the Mishnah Berurah, at least, it's more important than just Shabbos. In sets of clothing, right? Mishnah Berurah says Shabbos, then Shabbos Chol Moed, then Yom Tov. No?
What?
Isn't the Mishnah Berurah in Halacha, in niceness of clothing? Isn't the order Shabbos, then Shabbos Chol Moed, then Yom Tov?
I hear. I don't know.
You want some more? What's the refill?
Yeah. All right.
No, I'm saying, you know what I'm talking about with the Haftarah? Do you add in Cholamayah?
I don't understand why not. It's not a Shabbos Haftarah. The Yom Tov Haftarah.
Oh, more Tiago?
It's no, because the maftir, no thanks. The maftir is because of Shabbos, not Yom Tov.
Yeah, but the Haftarah is not.
Correct. No,
Where's the cans? Fresh? Upstairs. Tons of cans and I got ground.
Oh, you mean because the regular Chol Moed doesn't have a Haftarah?
Finish that. Where they downstairs? Downstairs. It's decent.
Why isn't it busy Yom Tov not to say it? That's I get that it's because of Shabbos, but isn't it a busy Moed?
Yeah.
Why isn't it Mevazah Samoyedim?
What?
Why is it not Mevazah Samoyedim, not to mention Yom Tov? So what if it's because of Shabbos?
What do you mean? So what? Why? Meaning it has nothing to do with Shabbos, so therefore.
Where are you going? Look at this.
So what?
I hear.
All right. Where are you for Shabbos?
In Lakewood, my brother Yisrael had a boy, so he's making Shalom up here. So
Oh, wow. Mazel tov. Please tell him. Okay, you know what? I can't call him. He's not going to pick up, right?
Yeah, it's looked engineer already, yeah.
I hear. Okay. If you can, please pass on my Mazel tov wishes.
Sure. All right.
Thank you, Yashikaya. Have a good Shabbos and good morning.
Shabbos.
What's up, Phil? What year?
Yeah, special Shabbos, right?
Yeah.
Shoulder.
Which Shalom?
What is that?
You and the Angels.
Shalom off the Yankee.
7-1-8-4.
What's with that guy?
No, Mom, it's just like everyone could get out of the house. The whole family went to the game.
Huh?
I showed up there, they just got back.
Marky also went?
But do you,
I'm assuming they left early, right?
She's almost 2 years older. How is it? Drinking from the can in the sukkah? Remote. Sure, pour me a little bit of scotch. I don't know if I'm going to donate to Soil a bottle of scotch tonight. Jacko, you done already? You want to end it? Stop the recording? End the meeting for all?
I did. I can't do it. I'm not logged in on this.
I made